tongue or anything like that. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll take a roll call attendance vote. Mitch?
Weber?
Here.
Nystrom?
Here.
Teven?
Here.
Pritchard? Pritchard, I think you're muted.
Here.
Melhouse?
Here.
Okay.
Okay. Now we'll do the recognition of visitors. This is going to be kind of hard to do, Dr. Menard. I'll turn it over to you.
There you go. Yeah, we don't have any students to recognize today, but you know, every month we do a Doors Award, and it always goes for dedicated, outstanding, and respected service. And it's pretty exciting when we give this, because the amazing work that our people do is being recognized in that way. And so tonight we want to recognize another amazing person who's doing an awesome job for us and was recommended by several people, and that's Diana Burial. Diana, we tricked you.
Yes.
And you really don't have to give a big report. You're muted, by the way. So, but you were nominated by Sydney, but many people had many good things to say regarding your nomination. So I'm just going to let Sydney share a little bit about what motivated her to put that nomination in. Sydney?
Sure. So I have been lucky enough to work with Diana for the last 2 years since I switched positions, and she's just a rock star in every way imaginable. She is there for students, she's there for staff, she's just gives 100% all the time, and we're really lucky to have you, Diana.
I know
Thank you
that,
so much.
I think back, Diana, to when you were a teacher leader in charge of technology, and that was wonderful to have you in that role. But I remember you sitting with me one day saying, you know, why don't you just take the technology off and let me do it all? Because I'm really doing a lot of the work with teachers and helping them with instruction well beyond technology. And that helped us change a little bit of how we were organizing things and opened it up a little bit. But your good work really paved the way to do that. Administrators, I know several of you have worked with Diane. Any comments you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, Diana's good work is evident all the time in the work that she does with integrating technology into all of our classrooms, working with teachers and working with students. And I think it's been extremely evident. Since schools have been closed and we've had to move to an online format in a really short amount of time. I know she's worked with a really good team, but she's been available to teachers basically anytime they've needed help, questions with anything, support with anything, and really has helped ease the technology part of the stress on teachers as we've shifted from a brick and mortar to the online format. So I know it wouldn't have been as successful without all of her good work and her extra time that she's put in.
Thank you. And can I jump in next? Can you guys hear me okay? I can't see anybody and my computer's acting funny. So
Yep.
Diana, I need you. No, just but yeah, I think I want to echo what Brad said, that, you know, in a time when people have felt really vulnerable for not knowing things too, Diana has just been so welcoming and how to help people feel okay not knowing things and not be frozen in their, you know, just uncomfortableness with our moving away from the brick and mortar format, and just be welcoming that really when she says call anytime, and you can call if you don't even know what questions to ask. Just call me and tell me what you're struggling with. And I think that's been a huge help. And because I had computer difficulties, I don't know if you've already said this or not, but I think the other really amazing thing about Diana is her commitment to Boone Community Schools. I feel like she is always constantly thinking, how can we just be a force in our community's lives, in our kids' lives, in our families' lives, and how can we make sure that who we are is transparent and positive and helping every kid and every adult feel valued. And that's a really big responsibility, but Diana takes that on in all of the work that she does. So we're so thankful for you, Diana.
Thank you.
This is Pam.
Now I get a little verklempt, Diane, and I go back a long way.
We do.
And she's always, what you say is so true. And she's been a wonderful inspiration to other teachers. And I've always been so grateful to have her on my team. And we were on lots of different teams together. Thank you so much, Diana.
Thanks, Pam.
And I'm going to jump into and say that Diana is everything that everybody has just said here and all of the work that she does. But I just want to add that her work is always very selfless. She's very intentional. She tries to take in whatever the situation is and what role she can play in that. And she's comfortable in whatever role it needs to be, whether that's a lead role or a supporting role. She wrote our computer sciences elementary grant for Franklin this past year and has really, I think, got into more than I think we thought we might right from the start, but she has weathered that and rolled with it, and just, you know, taken that as what do I need to do and how do I support everybody else around me to bring success. So she does that on our teacher leader team of instructional coaches. She does that in our elementary building. She does that in our community. She's just always looking at what situation is in front of us and how she can be the best support possible. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I would add that I worked also with her at the middle school for many years, and got to, see her off. While it was scary to lose her as a building teacher, I agree with what everybody says, that she exemplifies, she is the reason the teachers that we were looking for, with the program, with the teacher leader program for the state of Iowa. And so I really think she exemplifies what that means and why they created that system. And while it was hard to lose her as a classroom teacher, that's the whole idea. Amazing teachers make amazing teacher leaders. And so I got to kind of walk through those first steps with her when she struggled, like, do I leave the classroom? Do I not leave the classroom? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it temporarily and do it by a little bit. And I knew once she jumped into it, she would want to jump into it with both feet. And so it's been great working with her. And again, she is, her great work as a teacher, I knew that she would be a great teacher leader also. So thank you for everything you've always done. I've worked with you for a long time, and it's great to see you being successful. So thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much, Diana, for all you've done for our district. Normally, this is the point where you get to have your photo taken and the plaque presented, but fortunately for you, you don't have to get your photo taken with Dr. Menard and I.
I'll
right
do it.
now,
We will,
Already took
Diane,
her
we
photo.
will have a plaque for you. I've talked to Paige about it and she knows. So as soon as we're back in business, she'll get one to you.
so,
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You bet.
okay. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for all you do for our district, Diana. Okay,
Thank you.
Dr. Menard, I think there's one more on the item here.
Oh, yes.
School board
It is School
recognition
Board
for-
Recognition Week. And this is something that comes around this time every year for all of the good work that the school board members do. And, I say this because we have some public watching, and I want them to understand that this is all volunteer. And so all the challenges, all the time, all the exciting work that you do, the support you give the schools is all done as a result of your own desire to serve. And we certainly appreciate that and appreciate all that you do for our school district. And there will be certificates coming your way as well once we get back in business. So thank you for all you do. Your service is greatly appreciated.
And I'd like to thank the 3 new board members. It's the first time they've gotten this recognition, but thank you for all you've done jumping on board here and having to dive in deep with the hiring of superintendent, then getting thrown with the coronavirus and how to redesign a school in about 2 weeks' time. Appreciate all your hard work, and I appreciate too. Last week was Teachers Week, and the board tried to do several things to honor our teachers along with the assistance of our administration, and I'd like to thank you all for that effort.
Well, thank you too.
Okay. And next on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Dr. Menard, are there any changes to the corrections or additions to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as printed.
I move to approve the agenda as printed.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Nystrom, second by Mr. Pritchard to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, opposed nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next is the time in our meeting that we set aside to hear from delegations who are in attendance, usually in our boardroom, but we don't have that tonight. So we are live through the Boone TV. We also are on the website, and there is a chat room available. And I'm going to ask Ms. Stephen, Mr. Weber, are there any comments on that need to be brought up at this time? Or is there anyone else live here that'd like to speak?
I see no comments.
I don't
Okay.
see.
Okay, hearing no comments, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Pat. I move to accept the consent agenda, except on the billings or on the bills for Pritchard, bill for Pritchard's for $1,041 and for Boone County Family Practice of $154.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Weber to approve the consent agenda as printed, with the exceptions of pulling back a bill for Pritchard Brothers Plumbing for $1,041 and for Boone County Family Medicine for $154. Is there anything anyone else would like to talk about or extract or have any questions for the administration at this time? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda except for the two items withdrawn, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay. Well, we will now move on to the first measure pulled out, which was the Pritchard Brothers bill for $1,041. And do I hear a motion on that one?
Motion to approve bill for Pritchard's for $1,041.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Weber, seconded by Mrs. Nystrom to approve the Pritchard bill for $1,041. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. The motion passes 4-0 with one abstention by Mr. Pritchard. Now we have a bill for Boone County Family Medicine for $154.
Move to approve the Boone County Family Medicine bill for $154.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pritchard, seconded by Mrs. Stephen to approve payment to Boone County Family Medicine for $154. Any further discussion on this issue? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And I will abstain, but the motion will pass 4-0. Next on the agenda is Dr. Menard to give us a little bit of an update about Boone's Return to Learn plan, which is we're just finding out about in the last few days.
You're on
Dr.
mute.
Menard, you're muted.
This came to us on Friday from the Department of Education. And they gave us a return to learn guidance as well as a support document to develop the return to learn plan. The plan is much more important to us, I believe, than the details are to the Department of Education. The Department of Education is only going to look at the return to learn plan, which is our continuous learning plan, very similar to what we submitted this spring. And then any details beyond that we can submit, but they will be marked as received, and the department will not approve those. So we're going to be working on the return to learn plan. Jill and I spent about 45 minutes reviewing the documents together today, and I began working on the plan. It really is a guidance through some work of a lot of people in the district to determine the needs in specific areas. There's 7 different areas that we're working on. Those include, let me pull it up here. It includes infrastructure, health and safety, academic standards, which is our continuous learning plan, social, emotional, and behavior health, equity, special education, and some areas those are areas we need to work on, and we're developing plans. We will be developing plans on how to meet those requirements so that we're ready to start, well, actually this summer, to do some of our work this summer with some of our credit recovery and our literacy program, and then to start next school year, but most importantly, to be ready if there's any closure, because as we anticipated, the Department of Education said that if there's any closure next year, the plan will not be voluntary, it will be required. And so we're transitioning our current plan, and we've done a really nice job with it, but we've learned some things as well. So we're working to find the ways to improve on that and get that in place. And that approval will go to the Department of Education by July 1. Some other parts of the plan will continue to be finalizing throughout the summer because it just covers a lot of different areas. But we're already starting to work on that. And the leadership team is meeting tomorrow morning for a couple of hours to begin to look at it and coordinate how we'll address the needs of the plan. So really right now, we've just gotten in our hands. We haven't had a lot of chance to look at it and work together on it, but we're already starting to do that and recognize where the areas of needs will be. Any questions?
I guess the only question I have is just in the areas of IEPs and 504s and just special ed and those kind of things. Like I'm hoping that we're knowing that we have parents at home right now trying to do homeschooling with children with IEPs and 504s that they just cannot live up to what they need to happen while still trying to work at home and all that kind of stuff. And so just making sure that we're planning ahead for some extra help in those areas, whether that be associates or Heartland, the AEA programs and those kind of things, just really wanting to make sure that those kids aren't falling through the gaps. Speaking as a parent who has a child who easily could fall through the gaps, just me being transparent, like that's my heart. And so I just want to make sure those kids aren't slipping in the gaps right now.
Yeah, we that has been our greatest challenge in the last few months, is figuring that out. And I think it's been the greatest challenge throughout the country and with the federal government. And so when I put together began to put together the shell of how we would develop this plan, I actually pulled special education out and added that as an area to work on, because it wasn't pulled out. It was under the academic area, and there's an combination of academic and equity areas, but it was going to take so much to do that. I felt that deserves some special attention so that we could really address what the needs were there. So we've got our own little category for that now. And we will be working with this AA on this. I talked to TJ Jumper today, or communicated with him about it, and they'll be beginning to work with us as we get into this plan and help us develop that portion of it.
I think the other area that I have a concern about is our kids who have limited or no access to Wi-Fi and internet. And a lot of those are some of our disadvantaged students to start with. And, you know, this spring, it's been okay for them to go sit in their car in front of Franklin or the middle school and do work. But if we're doing this and it's 10 degrees outside, that type of thing, it's going to be a lot tougher. So I guess I'd like to ask that the administration look into that and see what modifications we can make to help those kids too.
Yeah,
I think Pam, you had a question.
Yeah, I do. I've been reading information from a variety of sources considering different things that are happening around the country and around the world. And there are some good resources out there from places that are doing things now to make it safe and make it a less dangerous environment health-wise. And I just wondered, what are we using for resources? Because there are a lot of them.
We have a couple that we're looking at right now. Let me pull them up. We've got the blueprint for back to school and the Maryland Together plan that we've looked at in the last couple of days. The other things that are being put together, the AEA is working right now. Jill was in a curriculum meeting the other day, and they mentioned it today in the AEA superintendent's meeting, that they're working to put together resources for us, and they hope to have those out in a few days. So you're right, there are a lot of resources, and one of the biggest challenges is the one that Brian mentioned, and some of those kids that don't have full access, and we're seeing some different ways to do that. We've also had some parents that have requested more traditional paperwork from us, like worksheets and things like that, and we've been supplying some of that, but we still need to work on making sure that we have those resources available. The other thing is the technology. We're in pretty good shape with technology, 5th through 12th grade. Our technology in our elementary level is typically kind of hand-me-down technology that was previously used in those upper grades, and that is those technology devices aren't in the best of shape. So we're looking at ways to maybe replace or enhance those. The challenge is funding, of course, and we know that we're getting $230,000 from the federal government that might help with that. But we also know, in looking today, that there's a lot of work that's going to need to be done through the summer to prepare for next year. And that may take some time as far as asking teachers to work and paying them for their time and things like that. So that's all part of what we're working on right now as we just begin to get into this plan.
I think it's going to be important to look at all the 5 areas that came out of that report Friday. And one being health strategies, and getting, school might look different. It might not be every day from 8 to 3. It might be, very different in appearance and in how kids conduct themselves and how we approach health. This is not over yet.
Yeah, the health strategies are one thing. The other thing that is part of the DE plan, and we also saw it in the Maryland Together plan, is that there may be some times where we have to reduce the number of days kids are in school in order to get the number of kids in the building down. They talked about morning, afternoon. They talked about a Monday, Wednesday group and a Tuesday, Thursday group, and just a variety of ways of doing a hybrid type of instruction where we give face-to-face instruction, but then we give them work to take home to work on the opposite days. And that's all part of what we'll begin to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, It's
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah, I do think it's really important with that. I saw that CARES Act money that we're getting, and I know there may be other expenses that I just don't know that is coming down the road. But I mean, we had already talked about the need for that one-to-one Chrome pad for the elementary school. And I think it's vitally important that we start looking towards that whatever way possible coming towards the fall, because we just don't know. I mean, that's all the rumors and scare stories that I hear of possible re-peaks back, in the fall. We need to be prepared for that. We need to be able to hand our kindergartners quality equipment if they have to do this in the fall again. So I think it's really, really important that we at least put some of that money towards that. And yeah, like I will say, like, as a parent, like, so I have Mrs. Caruth. She's pretty incredible. I'm getting one of these every single week. So I'm just going to give a shout out to her. And I know there's many other teachers that are doing the same thing. Like, so there are the ability to get beyond the technology aspects. And some of our teachers are thinking outside of the box. And so that's really incredible that they're doing that. And so if there's any teachers listening right now that they have those students that aren't able to get online and connect, I know some of our teachers are working. And so I know you guys are doing work sessions and connecting as schools and all of that stuff. So I just applaud all of that that's going on. And nobody expected this. And so you guys are doing incredible jobs. So yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we've discussed a lot of things here, and this is going to be a moving target. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do as of September 1st. A month ago, if you told me that, I would have said we're going to be back to pretty much normal, not worry about anything until September or October. After what's happened in the state the last 2 weeks and the numbers rising like I'm seeing with my other hat as the chairman of the County Board of Health, I'm really worried about us being able to go directly into full-time school this August. I think it's going to be a rough summer and start. So we'll just have to, we've said at our medical conferences, or luncheons with the physicians, it's a moving target. Everything's constantly changing with this coronavirus and expectations. So appreciate all the good work of the administration, and we'll just have to stay tuned for the next chapter.
One quick question, if I could. Brad, does each building have to do their own return to learn plan, or is it one for the entire district? It seems like the age groups and the buildings each have their own set of unique challenges that would need to be addressed in being successful when we return. Or is it one kind of cookie cutter, one size fits all that we just need to submit?
Well, it's one plan that we need to submit, and it's more of a check off of assurances that we're doing things. And then we download a copy of some of the things that we're doing. But the work that we're doing behind the scenes to put together a plan for us will obviously adjust for each grade level and each building level. And we did that this spring, and we'll continue to do it next fall.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on. I'm going to call on the other Brad, Mr. Winters, to talk to us a little bit about our enrollment numbers. Apparently, we have a third grade class that is multiplying rapidly.
So it's a good go ahead, Brad.
I just wanted to share that there's an attachment there that shows kind of the history of things, and it shows what our anticipation was when we started working on it in January, and what the end result was at the next school year. So you can see, our prediction in January, and then the actual numbers, and that includes where we are right now for 2021. So go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have. Throughout the year in second grade, I've kind of been monitoring the numbers, and we've lost a few, but we gained quite a few new students in second grade, where we were up to almost 25 per classroom before spring break. And had some conversation with my second grade teachers. They were concerned about how big the class sizes were getting, and obviously by that time in the year we were going to make it through and then kind of monitor. And so then just recently, since the school closure, had been monitoring that, and we're up to 125 third graders right now. And so that's 25 obviously in each section. So, you know, not knowing what the future holds, if we added 5 more students and kept on that same kind of growth curve, we would be really high in numbers. And if we kept 5 sections, and kind of thinking ahead, as you know, as we're talking about what could the fall possibly look like and needing to maybe get kids kind of distanced a little bit, I just brought it to Brad as just a concern. So here we are.
Okay. First question I have, Mr. Winter, is do we have an extra room over in your building to host another third grade section?
Well, I wouldn't say we have an extra room, but we would be able to have one. Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're making use of all the spaces we have, but yeah, we would have a spot for it.
Okay. Board, any other questions? I'll just say that I get concerned anytime I start seeing class sizes in the 24 range. Getting up to 25 does scare me, even though it's third grade. Some people will say that 25 might be okay. I'm not convinced. I know I've got a former elementary principal here who's shaking her head, very much so. I know we've got some budgetary issues, but it's somewhat early on the budget. And Brad, refresh my memory, it seems like if we were to add a first or second year teacher with benefits, it's going to run us about $65,000 to $70,000. Mitch, maybe you can, Dr. Menard or Mr. Lewis.
It'll be about 46, 47,000. So 70 grand is about a middle of the road teacher.
Okay. So if we get a younger teacher, we could get by for about $50,000 or less.
Dr. Millis, if I could add one more thing.
Sure.
If you look at the chart that Dr. Menard put together, we added a section in second grade this year, as you all know. And so they're at 128. So in 6 sections. So unless we would have a big drop, you know, or a lot of kids move out, which hasn't been the trend in the 2 years that I've been here, at least that I've noticed, we would likely need to add another section the year after next in third grade anyway.
Okay.
So just something to think about, that's probably on the horizon.
And then if you play that line one more step, Mr.
Right.
Winters, would mean to probably a year from now, we'd also probably have to add another fourth grade teacher for this class going up. You know, we don't have any first grade numbers on here, so I can't hypothesize about that. But
We have 6
understand
sections and they're high too.
how many?
We have 6 sections and they're high, like at 24 coming in to second grade this year for him.
Okay, thank you very much. So,
This is
Well-
on that chart is incoming second grade. Just so you know, on that chart is next year's second grade, next year's third, and next year's fourth.
okay, what about this year?
Looking towards next year, you have 6 sections of first grade for next year also, right?
Yep. And
Okay.
I think their class sizes are about 20 right now, but we're still waiting for more enrollment. Those usually go up over the summer.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Autumn, didn't you already tell us that, or maybe that was one of the PTO meetings, the transitional and the pre-K and the kindergarten registrations were already up because of like the t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah, all those numbers are up. The only numbers that are slightly down right now is kindergarten. We normally have a big push in March because people remember, oh yeah, my kid's going to school next year, but we haven't got to have that because people aren't thinking about school right now. So I got 7 more enrollments in the last week for kindergarten. So I project that number being up, but that's still 6 sections of kinder, 6 sections of first, 6
Yeah,
classes of
okay.
preschool.
I really see that we have 2 options here. We can either be reactive and every single year wait until we absolutely need it, or this is what we've talked about for the past 6 months of, wanting to bring these kids back in, and the community around us is actually growing and wanting these students to be here. And so we need to start being visionary and saying, we see that this is coming down the line. And so, it's another third grade classroom this year, and it's another fourth grade classroom next year. And because it's what we want and it's what we're hoping for. And so,
I would tell you too, there's a benefit if we're thinking about it, because the pool right now is pretty good. I just recently hired a second grade teacher. I know Autumn's in the process of hiring 2 teachers, and she's been telling me the pool is really good. And if you take the chance of waiting until August, you may find someone good at that point. We've hired good teachers in August before, but I think the pool is bigger now for teachers that are looking, that possibly want to move.
Yeah.
Also, we've been giving away free t-shirts to third graders too. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I asked a question of clarification. Autumn, how big are your first grade classrooms this year?
Let me look really quick. They were 24 this last year. We had some come in and some come out. Let me look right now for my first. Right now they run about 20 to 21 right now for this year coming in, but usually I have a couple more
next year's
for
first
next year.
grade.
Next year coming to me. Yeah.
No, how many were this year that are going into second grade? You said they're at 20.
They were around 24 going into second grade, but we have a couple moving out of district. So I think, are they running 21, 22 right now, Brad? Do you have that?
We have 128 right now, so that'd be 21.3 in 6 sections.
So 22.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
that's plenty. I mean, that's a big group of little ones. Yeah.
That puts you over 26 if you don't do it. So, okay, I will entertain a motion at any time, folks.
So one more comment quick, Brad Winter. I know you would anyways, but I don't like talking about hiring teachers and budget concerns in the same sentence. So I just encourage you, especially in the time of uncertainty, to hire who you think is going to be best for our kids, regardless of their tenure, their experience, how many years they got. So just want to throw that out there.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
That's always the approach we've taken, and we've continued to do so.
Okay.
Thank you for that support.
Good. Do I hear a motion here?
Move to approve hiring another third grade teacher.
Jeremy has moved, and Pam was trying to make the same motion, so I'm going to take her as a second.
Take
So
my-
it's been moved by Mr. Pritchard and seconded by Mrs. Nystrom to approve hiring an extra 6th teacher for the 3rd grade for this coming fall. Any other comments? Hearing no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thanks.
Next,
Thanks for the support.
you're welcome. And next is building principal updates. Each principal has said they'd like to give us about a 2-minute brief synopsis of what's been happening in their building. So I tell you what, let's go youngest to older students. So therefore we'll let Autumn start.
They're awesomest students first, however you want to see it.
Autumn, let me just say, we have been meeting about twice a week as a leadership team, and this is how we've been starting to keep ourselves updated, because things have been moving quickly and a lot of things have been going on. So we've each given each other a little update, and I think it'd be good for you to hear that as well. So go ahead, Autumn.
Yeah, I know that this has been really hard and we miss our students so much. And I can finally say that without crying 9 weeks later. It's taken me a long time because we miss them. We miss them so much. It just isn't the way we planned for it. But there are a lot of celebrations in this, I think, for sure, that we've been able to see. And at our building, we've really just had this level of transparency as we get to see each other teach. You'll hear teachers saying, "Oh, I watched your video and it was great." And then because I was going to build off of it this week. And so there's a lot of that connectedness, and we're seeing each other teach in ways that we haven't seen it before. So I think that's a huge celebration of things that are happening. And that took us a while to get comfortable with that. but that's a celebration that's been happening for sure. I think we've really been digging to instructional practices during our PLC meetings that we're still having every single week. We're just having these really good push and pull conversations about what our standards mean, and that's a really huge celebration. And I think our relationships have just really grown within our staff, but also with families. You'll hear our little people say a lot, well, I wanted to talk to my teacher today. And so it's getting to a point where they're reaching out to FaceTime one-on-one with their teachers throughout the week, just to check in, to hear how things are going. One of our kiddos that, just does really well with structure and having that accountability, the teacher has been working with him one-on-one. And when he wasn't enjoying the things online, this has really been helping him realize he can do these things even though his teacher isn't there. And there's just countless of those stories where that's happening. It's not just one incident, it's lots and lots of incidents. So when the teachers are getting together, you're hearing them say, oh, I talked to so-and-so today, this is what's happening, there's new ducks on their farm, or whatever it may be. So there's a relational piece that's really a celebration during this time as well. We've done a bunch of pickups. We've done school supply pickups for paper, pencils, crayons, all of that. We've done the technology pickup. We had numerous hours of options for that. And then we also had the supply pickup. So we've got lots of opportunities to kind of touch base quickly. I think one of the great pictures for us is during that supply pickup, we had associates come and teachers come that work with that kiddo, and you had the van pull up and sometimes decorate it even. And, we all have our masks on and tears are rolling down our face, and the mom in the front seat has tears rolling down her, her cheeks, and the kids are, they're crying, but they're happy. And then they just beam as all of these educators that love them drop this garbage sack of their items off, in their trunk for them. And I think that just shows over and over again how connected we are in a community. And nobody wanted it to end this way, but there's been this opportunity to show them how much we care. And I think for them to feel cared about, that has been a blessing in all of this, for sure. We've really been working on prioritizing our essential standards. The teachers have worked really hard. Okay, we only have 6 more weeks. Okay, we only have 4 more weeks. What do we want to get out? And they're like, okay, we need a little bonus video in to get this point taught. And we've really had some talks around why we want to make sure these videos are teaching opportunities for kids, because we know that, especially at this level, they can't sit and do worksheets all day, and that's not the best thing for them. The best thing is for them to have the interaction and the instruction from the teachers that know the words they've talked about all year, the vocabulary they've used all year, the way they've talked about all year. The other day, one of my teachers had to read to self over Zoom. And so everybody brought their little book, and you could see all their little faces zooming with their book, and then they could talk about it. And, just getting creative about what that looks like. Pajama party Zooms, sharing show and tell Zooms, guided reading Zooms. Some educators this week told me that the best part of their week is when their child gets that one-on-one instruction from their teacher throughout the week, or one on small group, whatever that is for their needs. And so they've been really intentional in prioritizing what needs to be addressed each week. We have reading, phonics, writing, math, specials, social studies, science, social emotional learning, all of these opportunities for our families that is really high quality, that we're really proud of. And our teams are really working together to collaborate on what that looks like and what's the best option, and how do we prioritize. And then I think when you add in the virtual meetings that go along with that, whether it just be social emotional or checking with their friends, some of our students that maybe only child don't have other kids around, they get to see that social interaction, but they also get to have some reading instruction. They're building those relationships, modeling games. I'm going to throw out Heidi John because you all know how amazing she is, but just hearing her talk to her students on her Facebook page is like you're right there in the living room with them. Stacy Kraft did the same thing with her phonics lesson. She was like, okay, remember when we did this? And she's talking to the screen and sucking the kids in. And so they're just doing a really good job of doing that. We've also even partnered with some community partners. Kyle from the Y Camp did a video on ducks for us because they were doing duck hatching in preschool. There was Ag in the Classroom did a video on where food come from that they could watch for social studies and science. So I think while this has been difficult, it's been a great opportunity to see how we can use technology in different ways. And our staff has really just stepped up to it, like all of the Boone staff has stepped up to it. So those are kind of the big things that are happening with the Little Pumpkins. Any questions?
Any questions for Autumn? Otherwise, we'll move up to Mr. Winter again.
I would just kind of echo a lot of the things that Autumn said. We had about just under 50 kids that didn't pick up their stuff. I think we're down to about probably 35-ish now that didn't come and pick their stuff up in those times. And as parents contact us, we're figuring out how to get their stuff to them if they're wanting it. Had some, again, like Autumn said, we've had some great work by our teachers, some really creative ideas. Last week with May the 4th, Lois Downs put together a whole, all week was Star Wars themed. Don Lester toured all around Boone County and did a Boone County history for social studies that the third graders could do. And so just some really creative ideas. And just, I think I was meeting with one of my teams today, and I think we're starting to move. We were having a good discussion, and I think we're starting to move from like Google Meets or Zoom meetings are just to kind of stay connected to now we're starting to use them as actual instruction and learning opportunities. So I think that's a great thing, because if we would have a resurgence of this next year, we would have to go to the same kind of thing. I think that's really good to. They started out with online learning opportunities, worked really hard, had some great opportunities for our kids, and now are figuring out how they can use the online meeting format to sort of mesh that with what they're doing on those online learning opportunities and keep kids engaged. So really good work by our teachers. And obviously not how we wanted to end the school year. And it was tough to have kids drive up and get their stuff and know our fourth graders that we wouldn't see them back in the fall. But it was good to see them and just say hi and check in on them. So that's about all I have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Winter? Otherwise, moving on up to, I guess it is the east side actually, and Mr. Kelly.
All right, yeah. I'd echo a lot of the same things. I think the thing that I throw out there for all staff, I guess, as board is making sure that we also recognize that just like all the parents that we're talking about with frustrations of educating their kids and how to work through that, the expectations that we're putting on teachers, they're also in that same situation. And many of them have kids and are trying to create online lessons and content while also participating in the same things for their kids. And so, I appreciate all of them for doing that. I have a senior and think that would be a little less stress on my end, but I'm trying to guide him through it as much as I think even some of the younger ones are too. So, I've visited with several of the teachers. My wife does daycare and has people coming in and, hearing some of those teachers. She has multiple teacher kids that talk about having 7 or 8 or 9 Zoom meetings in a week. That just goes to show you that's included Zoom meetings for their kiddos, for those classroom activities, the Zoom building meetings that they're having, and then their planning meetings and their PLC meetings for their content areas. So teachers are really working hard across the board, and I echo that for the middle school. So I appreciate all that they've done. I know it's a lot of work for them just to continue that, as well as continuing their families and educating their own kids too. So, that's a big challenge that I think sometimes we forget about, all the teachers that have their own kiddos going through those same educational challenges. So we've had pretty good turnouts for everything. Like Brad said, out of about 650, we only had about 40 that didn't make it to pick up their stuff. Offered times over 4 days. In the mornings, actually came in and worked on Saturday and offered a weekend time for a couple hours to get a few parents in there. I think our biggest challenge is, I keep sharing within our team that I think we were kind of set up. I think the state, depending on who makes their decisions or what they call their plans or do stuff, I think we're trying to overcome the hurdle of them calling the plan voluntary. And so I think as they created that plan and called that, that's most of my communication through the week with kids emailing me, with parents emailing me. Tried to get out ahead of that and post a lot of things on our Facebook page. Tried to record some videos and thought, here's another, we're sending so many messages out there. I think sometimes we look at it and delete it quick. So, maybe recording the message with myself reading it. I'm seeing like, oh, if the principal's reading this, maybe we'll listen instead of deleting it. And just trying to educate the public on, while the plan is called voluntary and we can't force them to do it, that it is the curriculum that we'd be teaching if we were in school. And it's going to be extremely beneficial to them if they can complete it. And so I think we had a huge percentage of parents and kids check out early on when the state called it voluntary. So I think our hurdle has really been to get them to understand that that it is the essential skills that we're putting out there and teaching and trying to get everybody going. So I think participation seems to be on the rise. A lot of teachers, like everybody else has said, doing great things, offering great instruction. And so I think attribute that to all of our teacher leaders and everybody else and our PLC leaders that have put us in a great position, knowing what their essential work was, working together, being organized in that, because I think the work that we've done over the past 3 years has really set us up for the success that we're having right now. So
Good.
That's it for the middle school.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And I would echo, every time I've talked to a parent or been on the radio, I've tried to remind families and media that's listening tonight that the voluntary component is what time you actually complete this project and these steps, because everyone's got to complete them at some time. You can voluntarily elect not to do things this spring, but then next fall you're going to have twice as much work to do. So you're much better off to work on the projects now. So.
Dr. Milhouse,
Okay,
could I add something real quick?
Sure.
Scott made a great point that I wanted to make, and I forgot, but I know that some of our teacher leaders are watching, and I just want to recognize the good work that they've done and that Jill has done in leading that group, and then that our teacher leaders have done in leading the work that our teachers are doing, because their work has allowed our teachers to really focus on the planning of those activities. And so between the work that we recognized Diana for earlier, and then on the sort of curriculum side of it, our coaches and Jill has really facilitated that good work and allowed our teachers to be able to do that. So I apologize. I meant to say something to recognize them. They've done great work with that.
And can I add one thing really quick too, because I meant to say the same thing, and how much parents have appreciated the consistency across the district. I've heard that over and over from parents that, it's hard to have, and I have a middle school, a high school, and an elementary. It's hard to have that, but that consistency that Jill has kind of led, and her team of coaches led all of us through, have aligned that work for more partnership within buildings and for parents to feel supported in that. So we could not do it without them either.
Okay. Thank you very much for that important point from all of you. Okay, Mr. Byam, your chance.
Good evening. First of all, I am going to echo what everybody has kind of said about the teacher leaders. I think one of the things that I think we can pride ourselves in is, and I would put them up against anybody in the state, is how great our instructional coaches and our teacher leaders are within our district. And they have really helped facilitate this transition and continue to help facilitate the transitions that we're looking at for future learning, both with our teachers and preparing them for our students. So it's although it's kind of a strange time, I think the legwork and the groundwork that has been facilitated prior to now really set us up for success. So I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a different approach. I kind of wanted to show you what our teacher leaders have helped support really quickly and give you an idea of what our teachers are doing also. For me, I think one of the things that I appreciate most is the growth that we've had as a staff. We've been talking a lot about different types of learning since I've been in Boone for the last 6 years, and with that growth mindset and kind of the design thinking and the pieces of the puzzle that we put together, I think we really were able to jump on this in a quick manner. So it basically started. Once again, I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of what our teachers have been doing. Everybody see this? obviously our teacher leaders were instrumental in putting a website together that allowed us to get the information out to our families. This is actually our high school page or it's the main page, and then we can go right into the high school page where we have all of our connection with our registration, all of our continuous learning pieces to all the lessons and all the standards. So I just picked out a few that were pretty dynamic and in my eyes. I just wanted to share a couple of examples. This would be an honors English example, going back to exactly what they need to learn, the standards, what are the pieces of the puzzle that they need to learn in order to be successful at the next step. So this is our honors English 9 week 6. We are in our week 6. There's a lot of different components within it. It'll explain the task, gives the text, gives some essential terms, and then it moves into basically breaking down the persuasive essay piece, the goals, basically breaking down the persuasive essay. And actually, Chambray sent me another thing just a few minutes ago, just another example of some of the changes that she's making on a weekly basis. This would be some of our science, principles of advanced science, so basically a sophomore class. We have our standards, exactly kind of what's going on, what is needed within their task. And you're getting bits and pieces of, for instance, this is one of the activities that they're doing. They're trying to apply this. The main concept is they're working on an end of the year project to reduce human impact on the environment. They literally break down the different pieces of the puzzle, and then they're going to apply it. So it's a great way to get a kind of a formative assessment of what's going on within the class and what the students are understanding. So this is what they have to come up with. One of the things that I think we're continuing to talk about is the rigor within our classes and what we're trying to offer. I think as we move towards, the concept that we're going to have to require learning next year, if we were to go online, I think that's something that we are going to prep and work towards in how do we create great assessments so that we really know what the students are learning. And I think that's going to be a concept that we're going to have to talk about our grading practices and the things that we're doing in grading, because we have to grade a lot differently right now than what we were prepared to do. Although we had prepared for standards over the last 3 years, and the studying of that has allowed us to transition a little bit easier. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Let's see. Got some law and bioethics examples. So we've got these wakelets where all the information is placed in. One of the standards is identifying local and state issues. Obviously, there is a large conversation happening about public health, who is legally responsible for public health. And so they start going through the concepts and the standards within law and bioethics. Lots of great information there from Gretchen. And the same thing goes for our CTE classes. They're creating videos where they connect and they elaborate on what is going on within the class. They've had office hours where students are coming in and meeting with the students, or the students are meeting with the teachers and asking great questions. We've had one of the examples that I wanted to share was like our geometry and math. They're breaking down these components each day. But then I think one of the things that was asked earlier was what are we doing about special ed and students with 504s? Our special ed teachers are directly involved with these with co-teaching, and so they're offering their supports in modifying and setting up accommodations for our students with IEPs. So those are some of the examples of the things that we're doing at the high school. This is another breakdown, actually, a video of the of the geometry class that was linked on this task. So those are just a couple of examples of things we're doing. We have our weekly meeting on Wednesdays. We go over some of our announcements, and then also in some cases we talk about just clarifying pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together as we go. Over the last couple weeks, I've kind of moved into more of a planning stages. So a lot of the pieces that you guys have already talked about this evening about the return to learn, Jill and I and Dr. Menard, we've started talking about what that would look like as a high school. One of the things that I'd like to possibly propose is sitting down with Pam and Pat as they're the education committee. I talked to Julie last week a little bit. I've talked to Brad, and just have some ideas and some thoughts that I think we need to probably hash out as we continue to move forward. I think one of the most integral parts that we're going to have to look at, especially in a transition to the possibility of either full inclusion, that we're all in the school at the same time. We've talked about the possibility of having A/B days where we would have classes of no more than 12 or 10 or however we need to set it up, building it that way and in a hybrid style, and then online learning. But I think the most integral part of all of this that we're doing in that planning, which I think we can do, and we can really raise the rigor of what we're doing right now, especially for our Excel students and all of our students in general. I think we can really continue to improve, and I think that's a testament of the growth that our teachers have had during this time. And I think we're going to be prepared for that. But I think one of the most important things is going to be talking about grading practices, and so getting that all mapped out and what we're going to do, because we can't continue to grade a traditional methodology in a hybrid or a strictly online system. So I think it's something that we need to clean up and clarify over the next couple months. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for all those good reports. Board, do you have any other questions? It sounds like we've done a lot, but we've got a whole lot more to do between now and August 24th or 23rd.
Jill, did you have
I don't want
something
to
to
put,
share too?
Sorry.
Sure, I'll just share that I meet weekly, often more than once a week, with that instructional coaching team. And then they also are supporting our PLC leaders. And early during the closure a couple weeks ago, I met individually with each of our PLC leaders and teachers serving and mentors. So anyone in those teacher leadership roles for kind of a one-on-one, usually it's an annual end of year reflection. At this point, it was 15 to 20 minutes. And of that, 12 minutes at least was spent on how are we doing right now? Tell me what's your experience like. That was really helpful to just have a chance to chat one-on-one with some key teachers that are helping lead across our district, and get their insights on the struggles they're seeing and where their teams are, and then be able to bring that back to this team, the leadership team, and take those insights and consider what else our team needs next. And one of those first things that we established was that we really wanted to provide some sort of consistency across the district, and so that continuous learning site is what came out of that, and that lesson template that Chris showed looks the same across his classes, and we use a similar template K-8, and we just felt it was really important to provide that sense of consistency for our families, knowing that they were doing a lot more lifting in the learning than they perhaps would normally do. And so as we've settled in and gotten better at how we use that, then it becomes what's that next step. And so a couple weeks ago, that became we need a little bit more data on how our families are engaging. And so we started working with our teachers, and that teacher leader team really started working with our teachers on collecting some sort of engagement data, some interesting ways that we can do a little exit ticket to see the levels of understanding that our students have, and knowing that a lot of this right now is a great way for us to pilot types of learning that can go into that continuous learning plan that we're developing for next year, so we can see what types of lessons worked well, what types didn't, what things did our kids engage in the most at the middle school level versus the elementary level, and then how can we use that data to help guide what we plan moving forward, and what things flopped. And if it did, it's okay. That happens in our classrooms all the time, and we take that information and we come back and we try again a different way. And so just using all of that as, hey, if you put it out there and we find that it only worked for 2 kids, it works for 2, and then we'll put something else out the next time. So we're really trying to be mindful of what data will help us to move forward from students and families. And then also we started organizing, what are those learning standards that we taught under these conditions right now, knowing that those may be ones that we need to be more mindful of in the future. And so many of our standards, back map and build across grade levels. So it doesn't mean that we need to teach another quarter's worth of work next school year and try to squeeze that in. But it is just being a little bit mindful in our practices. And our teachers, our elementary leadership team met this afternoon, and we talked about our teachers already doing some work and planning on how they bundle those standards, and they back map and say, this is what we would normally teach in 3rd grade, and here are those things from 2nd grade that we can just kind of wrap in as prerequisite skills when we teach that, and just be mindful of. So they're already starting to talk or collect some data that can help us vertically to be more prepared to support kids and support those gaps that they may have, and then really be mindful of kids and maybe those students in special ed, those students or EL students or more at-risk students that may need some more supports, and knowing what those skills are that we may need to be mindful of when they return. So that's all of the work of a lot of leaders, but trying to use some similar processes across the district so that we build that structure together.
Okay. Jeremy, I think you had a question next.
Yeah, I don't want to put Brett on the spot, but I was wondering if he could give an update on activities and athletics.
Thank you very much, because I was going to ask the same question next. So
sure, I can do that. Obviously, a lot of our students, especially our seniors, were disappointed with the cancellation of spring sports, and I have to commend our coaches for doing a really good job of at least giving them some sort of closure to it. Opportunities, whether it be a Zoom meeting or a celebration online. We felt like as an office, the best thing that we could do was continue to give them their certificates and projected letters and awards for those spring sports. So I want to thank Lori Woodruff for all the work that she did in helping that happen. So those will be available for the kids when they came for checkout and things. We also had some great activities sponsors that continued on with some virtual activities. In fact, I know Individual Speech performed this weekend and had a very successful run there. So, and a lot of our activities continued to move forward where they could virtually. So that's nice. As far as moving forward, the last guidance that we've received is still a June 1st date for baseball and softball. It's kind of been that way for the last few weeks. In the reports that we've received, I believe the state and the union, the association and the union still continues to wait on the governor and Department of Ed to sign off on plans, which makes it a little difficult in preparation for what that timeline is going to look like, pitchers and catchers, practices, scheduled. But we're planning on a June 1st or June 2nd start with practice, mid-June for games, if at all possible. The latest guidance also stated that they were able to meet with their kids virtually and do some virtual instruction. So that at least provides something for our coaches that I know our kids and coaches have been chomping at the bit to get out on the field. So that provides a little bit. And there were some guidelines about eligibility and transfer rule that they're taking into account, not having that spring season. So we're still in a holding pattern, but preparing as if we're going to be able to get on the field June 1 or June 2nd. So still waiting for those guidelines.
Okay.
I just add to that, when you talk about the holding pattern, we're doing the same thing for our Kids Club and BEEP program. We've heard that the governor is going to make some announcement before June 1 about when we can open back up, and people are hoping it'll be June 1, but we don't know for sure. And so it's put our families and it's put us in kind of an awkward position because people need to make plans, but we don't have any dates. We don't have any times that are giving us the direction to make those plans. So that's been difficult, just like it has been for a lot of our athletes in preparing for the summer and getting ready. So just to let you know that that's going on as well.
I will say that I've heard the governor is supposed to be making some announcements about the next stage because her proclamation expires for most things on May 15th. And so my understanding from what I'm hearing on the health side is that there's going to be some major announcements tomorrow. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. Okay. Unless there's any other questions, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. I appreciate all the reports from all of our administrators who are obviously working very hard along with our teaching staff and teacher leaders to continue to educate our kids. Speaking of educating our kids, the next one is the one joyful duty we do get to do every year. And that is the presentation of the graduation class of 2020 Boone High School. Dr. Menard. You're on mute, Dr. Menard.
You have the list there that includes our graduates and our graduates from futures that are anticipated to graduate. As always, we put this out prior to completion of the year and the academic work, so we hope that we don't have to pull any of these names off. The nice thing that has happened this year, if you can call it a nice thing, is that they have to have their academic work done by the 15th, that's Friday, and we've got until June 13th. Usually we have about a week to get things caught up and made up, and we've got about a month to get on anybody who's not where they need to be, and so gives us a little bit of flexibility to work with those students. But Chris is still working on graduation on the 13th in the evening. I talked to Kim Kitterman today. She wants to do a drive-through graduation ceremony at noon on the 13th, and talked to her about that I, obviously would be here that weekend, and so I'd be able to participate in both, and that'd be really nice to do that. I spent a lot of time over at Futures throughout the year and know most of those kids, so it'd be nice to also be able to be involved in that. In fact, I was supposed to be the graduation speaker, but now they don't have a graduation speaker. So, but those things are set up. And so we're just asking you to approve these names with the hope that everybody will get through. There's a possibility that every year we have to pull off one or two, and hopefully with a month to work on them this year, we won't have to do that.
Yeah, is there any?
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion here?
I move to approve the graduation class list presented.
This is Pat.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pritchard, seconded by Mrs. Teben to approve the graduation class list as presented tonight for the class of 2020 Boone High School. Is there any further discussion?
I wondered, do we know, are there any students right now that aren't on the list because of everything that's been going on? And then when will we know if anyone didn't make the graduation list?
Everybody's on the list, and we tend to not share that. That's something that we pull and work afterwards and try to get them through. In most cases, they receive their diploma in August after summer school if they finish what they need to finish. Right now, there's very few kids that are really on the cusp. I've got a couple that were strongly pulling to get done, but we tend to get them there. I think over my 6 years, I think we've only pulled 2 kids or 3 kids. So we'll get them there.
Awesome. I would obviously, I'm sure many of you have seen my pictures of the Toward Pantry or me being a Toward Pantry. And so, yeah, Kim isn't on these meetings to give the updates. And so I'll just give a shout out to her because I've been with her every single week and just say, I know that she's been literally driving to students' homes to make sure that they have the stuff that they need, because many of them don't have that technology and don't have the ability to connect. I mean, these are our at-risk students in this community.
Yep.
That's who Kim deals with. And so just give a shout out to her that she's doing an incredible job driving all around this town to make sure that these kids are where they need to be. I think she told me last week they have 28 students graduating from Futures this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just incredible. And so I would encourage, I know Brian, I know you told me just last week that you always try to be at the Futures graduation. I would encourage anyone watching this and our board members and anyone that can to just be a part of that, because those kids work really, really hard and are dealing with some extra challenges than some of our other students. So yeah, that's just my.
The only problem with that this year is we may have to worry about our crowd because of the COVID restrictions. So, but I hear you there, and
there's a
always,
playground next to it. We can just all hang out in that playground and just watch from a distance if we need to.
So, okay. Any further discussion, or else all those in favor of approving this list signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay. The motion passes. Next, we have a couple small modifications of the calendar for the coming year. Dr. Bernard, do you want to explain those two minor?
Yeah, when we set the calendar, we didn't know the football schedule yet. And so we know that now, and we know that homecoming will be September 25th. So we've added that to the calendar. And the other thing that we did as we've worked through the year, we tried to do some before school teacher leader teacher PLC meetings with teachers. And it was a bigger challenge at Page and Lincoln because of the kids' younger age and the challenges of them getting in and doing what they needed to do. And it also was a challenge because it caused a little bit of a tight schedule for our special education students that are transported. And so we can solve that by going back to the start times and the finish times that we had, not this year, but the year before. And so Autumn has recommended that we do that. We reviewed that as a team. We reviewed it with Mike and transportation, and he really is excited about it. So that's just a change of backing up the start and dismissal time at Page and Lincoln by 10 minutes. And those are the only two changes on the calendar.
Okay. Any discussion from any board members? Questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this. These are modifications of the 2020-21 school year, and hopefully it's the only ones we have to make for all year.
Motion to approve 2021 calendar.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Weber. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, been moved by Mr. Weber, second by Mrs. Nystrom to approve the calendar changes as presented on the agenda tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have curriculum purchases first for the K-12. Dr. Menard, can you lead us there? Or actually, I guess Jill
can do that.
I can. On our curriculum review cycle this year was our foreign language and CTE, and then health, though with everything going on and where the health team was, particularly at the middle school, and breaking down their standards, and health and science pair really well together. And in talking with that team, they elected to wait an extra year to really get a better handle on how their standards align with the addition of 5th grade health at the middle school this school year. And take a look at health and science together next year when science is on curriculum cycle. So I bring to you recommendations for those curriculum purchases for foreign language, for Spanish, and for CTE, and then also some additional needs that we have with early literacy. and primary literacy and futures. And I will just kind of take you quickly through the overview of what those teams have put together. In Spanish, that team did some site visits last spring to look at a little bit different approach to teaching foreign language, comprehensible input, which I don't know nearly as much about as our Spanish teachers, and perhaps Mr. Pritchard knows more about that from some contacts he has. But with that, then they piloted some curriculum this fall, and then we're able to collaborate around that, and really appreciated what that curriculum brought to them. And so after using that, they looked at how that was applicable at Spanish 1 and 2, some textbook needs at Spanish 3, and then ways that they can really just better their teaching in that with that new style of teaching they've adopted through some more authentic text and novels. So budgeting to be able to support them in getting kids into a more of an immersive approach to teaching language. And at Spanish 4, just looking at some other things that might supplement those upper grade levels with the textbook that we were looking at doesn't go up to Spanish 4, and neither do some of the other materials that we're using. So thinking of some ways to be creative and use some software to better support our kids at those higher levels in Spanish. In CTE, our CTE team is going through and Ms. Teven can speak to this too, is going through a set of program reviews, and our human services program was under review this school year. And with that, we really took a look at our child development, and looking at those materials, we really need to shift to more of a human development approach, and looking at some materials that would better fit teaching to the whole lifespan versus just child development, and kind of shifting some things in that course. So a recommendation to purchase a new text for child and human development that would better support that program's needs at this time. And then when we get to futures, our futures curriculum, our alternative curriculum materials have not been updated in quite some time, and we want to make sure that we're able to support those students. And so Kim and team have really reviewed resources that can support our students better in our futures alternative setting. Many of the texts that she selected are ones that fit the rigor level, but perhaps are at a lower readability level, that make sure that our students can access the information that they need and take away some of those barriers, and support her students more flexibly. So she's pieced together some new materials that will better support all content areas at futures. So we've included those in the budget. And then finally, our early literacy curriculum materials, we purchased materials for K2 last year with your approval to really focus in on foundational skills and phonics. And then we started working with 3rd and 4th grade this school year, and piloted some materials with a comprehension toolkit that wrap around that comprehension skill. And then did some overview of those materials with K2 teachers this year, piloted those a little bit before we went into closure, and really would like to fully implement that then with a primary version at K2 that would support what our upper grades are using in comprehension.
Okay, any questions for Ms. James, or else I'll entertain some motions here.
I move to approve the purchase of the items that were just explained.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Weber to approve the K-12 curriculum purchases as just recently presented and listed in the attachments. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the teachers that will thankfully use those materials, I say thank you.
Okay, next we have up is the parochial school textbook. And for those board members who are new, there's some state funding that just passes through our district to the parochial schools. They order the items based, there's certain rules, and then we buy them and distribute it to them. So it's just a pass through from state funding. Dr. Menard? You're on mute again.
Yeah, I know it. I'm trying not to give feedback, but this is the parochial school textbook purchase for Trinity. And Sacred Heart has asked to carry those over to next year. So we're just approving this one school, and that's within the amount allotted to them.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Nystrom, seconded by Mr. Weber to approve the parochial textbook purchase for Trinity Schools as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Now, next is the ACT test date. Dr. Bernard.
Yes, we obviously weren't able to give the ACT the end of March as was planned for all of our juniors. And they have provided us with another test date next spring on October 6th, where juniors who would be seniors then would be able to take the ACT and do it as if they would have in March. That's still before the time many of them have to submit college applications and things like that. If they need to take it beforehand, there's they certainly can pay for it and do it during the summer. But this would give them a chance again for all of our juniors to take the ACT. And then next spring, we would do the ACT for our juniors again and get back on track, hopefully, with the spring administration of the test.
Mitch, from a budgetary standpoint, can we carry that money forward, or have we already paid for it so we don't have to worry about? I'm just thinking about that fiscal year component.
We never got billed for them yet, so I assume that they're just going to move it till next year.
Okay, so is there anywhere we can carry that money forward from a budget? Because
It'll be over in our fund balance. That'll be it. I mean, we can budget for having 2 rounds of tests, which we probably will. So
it'll go into our fund balance, and then we'll just budget 2 tests in the ACT line.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure from a financial standpoint we're okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for these to be set for October 6th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the ACT test date.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Pat? Okay. Been moved by Mr. Pritchard, secondary by Mrs. Teben to set the ACT date for our current juniors who will be seniors next fall for October 6th. And then we would do our regular one for next year's juniors, that is our current sophomores, in the spring of 2021. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passed unanimously. Just as a sidebar, any parents are listening, I spoke with the DMAC officials. My wife is one of the people that gets the ACT test out there on a regular basis. And there is a test for ACT that parents would have to pay for themselves on June 13th. But when my wife looked on Saturday, you could get it if you took the writing component in Indianola, Pleasant Hill, and Winterset. Otherwise, without writing, the closest ones were Fort Dodge, Carroll, Winterset, and Grinnell. And there's another date with some availability here at DMAC on July 18th, but that's only if you want to at least say you're doing it with the writing component. Otherwise, the 2021 date or the fall dates are September 12th and October 24th. So just a FYI for anyone listening in the audience. So, okay, moving on, updated job descriptions, Dr. Menard, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, we needed to update our job description for to make sure that we had some identification of restrictions in there related to workman's compensation issues. And so Mitch and I worked on those together, and then we were able to do job descriptions for all of our support staff and our central office support staff. I believe there's 18 or 19 support staff and 4 central office staff. The only support staff yet to be done is the library media associate, and our librarian's grandmother passed away last week, and so I didn't want to bother her. And then when I contacted her on Friday, that was the day of the funeral, and so I told her we'd take care of it. And so next month we'll have our managers, the media specialists, and our teacher job descriptions to approve, and then they'll all be approved prior to the July 1 start date for our new workers' compensation insurance.
Okay. Are there any questions about this issue from the board members? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the current job descriptions as presented tonight?
Motion to approve current job descriptions for support staff and central office staff.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Weber, seconded by Mr. Pritchard to approve the updated job descriptions for the support staff and central office staff as presented on the agenda. Any further discussion?
I
Hearing
would
none, all those-
add that all of the supervisors that supervise these positions have had a chance to review them and approve them as well.
Okay, good. Any further questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next is the revision to policy 403.1, and this is the employee physical examination first reading. Dr. Menard, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, this is again related to workman's compensation. A few years ago, we had removed the requirement for a physical due to some state guidance from our policy. But as a result, we have hired some people that had they had a physical, they might not have qualified, particularly under the new job descriptions. And so we want to put that physical exam in as a pre-employment requirement. And so this is the policy that puts that back in.
Okay. Just as an aside, I don't do school physicals for employment for Boone School District, but I do for other companies. And when you're doing a pre-employment examination, you basically, if the patient has any physical limitations, you note in the exam form, I'm going to say they've had a back injury and they can no longer lift over 30 pounds. So the physician would then write on the pre-employment physical, patient is cleared for work, however, he has a 30-pound lifting restriction. Then the employer would go to these job descriptions and they'd look at the job that the patient or the subject had applied for. And if that job said lifting 50 pounds on a regular basis, that person would not be allowed, would be ineligible to be hired for that job. And you would not, the American Disabilities Act would not play a role in there. So that's one of the reasons why work comp companies have gone back to these pre-employment physicals.
Dr. Melhouse, do you have them lift 30 pounds for you, or do you rely on them to tell you that I can't lift more than 30 pounds?
It depends upon the type of pre-employment exam that is done. Some of them would just go by what they say. Others of them, some companies, if they want to be very strict, they'll actually pay a physical therapy company. Boone County Hospital does some for some companies too, to do a physical assessment where they will actually put the patient through the vigors of lifting, say, up to 50 pounds or repetitive movement or something to further delineate how well they can do it. It should also be noted that employee will sign the bottom of this form of the job description. And if they sign and they see that it says that they have a 50-pound lifting they're expected to lift 50 pounds, then at some point in the future, they get injured, they say, oh, I've never been able to lift over 30 pounds because of my injury. Then the workman's comp and the employer is off the hook because that means they signed a false document. So there's a lot of medical, legal, when you come to work comp law, and our work comp providers are starting to get a little bit more sticky on it. So that's why we're having these recommendations. And as I said, I do not do any of the pre-employment ones for the Boone Community School District. For public record, I do end up doing some school bus driver ones because there's only one other doctor within about 40 miles that will do those. So it's we have to do that, and all bus drivers will know what I do. Any other comments?
The only question I wonder, and obviously this is an addition to the physical expectations. Is this something that we retroactively implement? So say there's a custodian that doesn't meet our current physical examination, would he have to go through that and then potentially fail and get fired? Or is this just for new hires?
For new hires from here on forward. And it won't, we have to do a second reading in June, so it'll go into effect the middle of June.
Yep.
Which, by the way, you've got a minute here. You've got June 5th. I believe it's going to be a June 12th meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of modification of policy 403.1?
This is Pat. I move to approve the first reading, official reading of, 403.1, employee physical exam.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Mrs. Nystrom to approve first reading of policy 403.1, employee physical examination, first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, this policy passes unanimously. Next is the Alliant Energy Easement, Dr. Menard.
Yeah, if you look at the map, this is an easement, and we have this happen every now and then. We had one down by Lincoln School a year or so ago, out here by the west of the high school. There, we did an easement about 3-4 years ago for utilities to be put in and run. And this is a request for an easement. And this is probably the easiest one we've ever gotten because it's along the south side of the middle school. So those houses that are clear across those fields on the other side is where that easement would come in for along the backside of a few houses. It's pretty easy to do and will be relatively no disruption to the school environment. I believe they're going to do it this summer. So I'd recommend we go ahead and approve this.
Thank you, Dr. Menard. Mr. Pritchard, have you looked at these? You got any big concerns since you're the one that reads these?
The biggest concern with these types of deals is if they have to shut off utilities to the school. In this case, I don't think they'll have to do that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this easement from Alliant Energy?
So moved.
Okay, then moved by Ms. Nystrom, second. Okay, Ms. Nystrom moved, Mr. Weber seconded. The motion to approve the Alliant Energy easement as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next is we have item on agenda is a special meeting date and time. Dr. Menard.
Yeah, we need to have a special meeting to do several things. All of them are fairly straightforward, but one would be to approve the land purchase. We just got the documents late Friday and have just been reviewing those to see if they're where we want them to be. Mitch has reviewed them and I've just started to take a look at them. And then we want to get them to Jeremy and Brian to look at before we move forward. We also have our workers' compensation insurance, our other insurance for all of our facilities to approve. And there was a fourth thing, wasn't there, Mitch?
Administrative insurance.
UE agreement.
Administrative pay.
No, UE agreement and administrative pay.
Yep.
So, so doing those 5 things on the agenda, all of them should be fairly quick, but we need to get them all done. So we decided to set a special meeting for Tuesday, May 26th at 6:30.
Okay.
And that again will be via Zoom.
Because that one is going to be dealing with the land purchase, I would like to see if we can't work with Bob Patterson to have something set up where we can have some live comments if there are any comments. Perhaps I'm talking with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Patterson might be in the auditorium where a few of the board members might be present just live, but other board members, Dr. Menard would Zoom meet in case anyone would like to make comments from the public in our computer challenge like myself and many others. Is there a motion to approve this meeting? First, I should ask board members, are you all available for this meeting? Technically, we don't need 3 of you.
Yeah, it works for me.
I'm available.
Okay.
Yes, it will work.
Okay. So we'll do this on May 26th, 6:30 via Zoom, but we'll try to have someplace open for public.
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve the special meeting for May 26th, 6:30
Is there a
PM.
second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pritchard and I believe Mrs. Nystrom beat Mr. Weber out for that second. To have a meeting a special meeting on May 26th, 6:30 PM. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next, Dr. Menard.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I was working with Lori King today. We have continued to feed a lot of people. We're down in the mid 400s from a high of about 550 each day, but continuing to feed a lot of kids. And we were discussing today, the federal government has extended this type of lunch program through June 30th. And our normal summer lunch program would start about June 1st. And so Lori was asking me about that. And in our normal lunch program, she felt we could serve the same meal and do it with some social distancing in the cafeteria. But when we did that in the last few summers, we've only served about 100 people a day. And so we were concerned about the drop off. I was in a meeting today with the Raccoon River Conference superintendents, and 4 of those doing the lunch are going to continue the grab and go through June 30th to keep those numbers up. Lori's a little concerned about the weather and the heat, a little concerned about the in finding employees to do that. But she obviously said, we'll make that work if that's what we want to do, especially if we'll continue to serve, over 400 kids a day versus having it available for 100 kids a day. So I'm just kind of looking for a head nod if that's kind of the direction you want to go for continuing that program, or if we want to just start a regular summer food program the 1st of June.
My personal feeling is the more kids we can serve, the better. The only caveat I have is, can we then, starting July 1st, go to our summer lunch program at that time?
Yep.
And carry that through for July through August, so we'd still get the best of both worlds?
Yep. And we can do that. And if the federal government extends the current lunch program into July, we could continue with the grab and go. If not, we can go to our regular summer lunch program.
Well, why can't we continue the grab and go?
There's some regulations that the federal government did not allow that. They had to come in and carry it out. We couldn't go out and hand it out. So they've made some leeways to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think they would adjust it to continue?
I'm not sure. They may, and that'd be fine. Yeah.
We don't know for sure if they won't extend this current program. We're doing 450 to 500 a day through July and August. It's still a little bit early for the government to say right now, and depending upon how the economy gets turned back on, it may be that they extend the program with those modifications that we can keep doing this the way we're doing right now. If we can do it, I'd prefer to be able to do it as long as possible. So if we can go to June 30th, I'm in favor of doing that.
I agree.
I'm in favor of doing it all summer.
Yeah.
Feed better.
Brad, can we do that and still feed the kids that we feed at Page? Can we have that additional site if we are able to open back up for Kids Club and Beep?
Yeah. Lori mentioned that. She said if that opens up, we'll serve them as well.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, I wonder if part of the past few years being lower numbers and now us being higher numbers is a lot of people in this community didn't know that this was available. And so we've been really promoting it on social media and in different areas. I mean, KWBG has talked about it. Blue News Republican has talked about it. And so there's just a lot of press about it. And so as long as we can keep it going with what it's doing, I think that's incredible. And I know that some of it is just parents just wanting to get out of the house and want their kids to get out of the house and see their teachers and stuff like that. And praise God for that. That's awesome. So, I mean, I think we need to keep it going as much as we possibly can for as long as the government will let us.
Okay. Dr. Menard, this is not an action item right now. I think you have the board's approval to keep doing this. If you decide we need an action item, I guess we have another meeting to discuss that before June 1st. So
I think we're okay because we've already gotten federal government approval. So it's just a matter of us continuing it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing I had on next Monday, we're doing a Zoom meeting with the city council, and we have presented the land and road options to the city council committee, but not to the entire council. And so we're going to present that next Monday. Eric Barron, our architect, will be there. The city council has asked me what we plan to ask for, because I think they're trying to get ready. Is there going to be some big ask or something at this time? And Eric and I talked about that quite a bit, because we've both been through situations where there's been misunderstandings between schools and cities, and schools have ended up paying a lot for roads that maybe they didn't anticipate paying for. So under the executive content there, you have a document that I'd like to share with them a week from Monday that really talks about us, the city, looking at the cost, determining that, and then working with us so that we can get something in writing that verifies the responsibilities for that road and the costs and that sort of thing. So that once we get working on that, there's no question. So that's the plan for a week from Monday.
Dr. Menard, do you need all of us to be present at that meeting? And is it Zoom?
It's Zoom, but I think Brian and Jeremy, are you planning on being there, do you think?
Yeah.
I'll have to let him know, and I'll let Bill know that Eric, myself, Brian, and Jeremy will be there to speak. If other board members want to participate, or administrators, they can sit in on it as well.
I would like to be present at that as well.
Okay. We'll just have to make sure we post that as a special meeting, Mitch, just for our legal standpoint. I have no problems with having more board members there. We just, Mitch just takes care of our legal standing. We're fine.
Yep, I'll post it.
Yeah, I would like to be there as well.
Okay,
Okay, Autumn, great.
Mitch, will you be on that one as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
You would just
Anything else, Dr. Minot?
Yes.
That's all I had.
Invitation to all of us, that would be good. And then we can see if we can attend.
Okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
that'd be great. So, okay, hearing nothing else, I'm gonna go next in the agenda is the public comment. Has anyone received any public comments, or questions? Mitch,
I
Pat?
have not.
Joy?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nope.
I would just like to take a quick minute to thank all of our administration who came on this meeting tonight and spent the evening with us. Ms. Newell, Mr. Bailey, Ms. Sellers, Mr. Winters, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Byam, Mr. Collins. You've all been on all night. I just wanted to thank all of you for all the time you spent this evening and all you've done for the school in this trying times. And then also our director for all this, Mr. Bog Patterson, and then Mr. Lewis. With that, we are going to we have a couple we have an exempt session and a closed session yet to go to. So